I was reading Jeremiah 31 by happenstance where I'm at in my reading, and obviously New Covenant. And then, so that had me turn to Luke naturally, and so then I was reading, I was like, what did Jesus actually say there? This cup. Well, then I was thinking, well, which cup? Passover is getting ready to take place, and I thought, well, when there's multiple cups of wine that are given. And so then I was like, you know what, I think on Torah Resource there is a article by Tim that details the 4 cups
link in the description
of the Seder. And so which cup most represents the New Covenant, which represents the language in Jeremiah 31. And from reading Tim's article, as well as just pondering it more and more, it really appears that could it have been the 4th cup?
Okay, let's talk about this. First of all, link in the description for the article that Matt from Michigan is referencing. The article in question is called 4 Cups and Their Meaning in the Passover Seder. Now, it should be noted right away that this is a second edition of the article. In fact, when my father wrote this, it was a very long time ago. I think it was early 2000s. And when we did the book Celebrate the Feast, which you can buy on Torah Resource, by the way, I would encourage everybody to do that. There are articles from both my father and from Rob, and then some hack named Caleb Haig also wrote in there. But there's a lot of great articles, most of them by my father, by the way. Anyway, he wrote this article. And as I was editing and putting together this book, Celebrate the Feast, I said to him, hey, look, just from the research I've done, let's talk about this article. And so if you go into the second paragraph, this is what my father says in his article, because he did some revisions to this. He says, over the centuries, the Passover Seder has grown in new and meaningful traditions, but the core of the celebration dates back to the Rabbinic Literature that is traditionally placed as early as the 3rd and 4th century. So that is straight out of the gate one of the things that my father has now, he's placed the traditions in this time period. So you're talking 400 to 500 years minimum after Christ was on earth. And then also he says the specific reason 4 cups were chosen is unknown, but the rabbis link it back to the biblical text of Exodus, unfolding the whole story of the Exodus from Egypt. This is in the 3rd paragraph. And there is a footnote. Footnote number 2 says, although the rabbis attach the meaning to this text, this is most likely a later interpretation. Multiple cups were most likely a cultural element that the rabbis wanted to give religious significance to. End quote. I'm just going to put it out there, and then I'll let Rob run with it. The 4 cups that we find in the rabbinical literature of the 3rd and 4th century at the earliest, I believe were the rabbis taking elements of the Deipnon and saying there's a biblical reason for this. We're not just going to take Roman tradition and not say that we didn't have it first. And so what they do is they take this, and later, after the 1st century, they say 4 cups. Yeah, here are the meaning to the 4 cups, and they're the ones who come up with 4 cups. In the 1st century, we have no evidence whatsoever that that there were 4 cups at the Passover Seder. We have no evidence whatsoever that Christ had 4 cups at his Passover Seder, that this was tradition in the time. And so to then try to attach meaning of something that Christ says to a tradition that comes possibly 500 years later is, I think, anachronistic at best. I don't believe that there were 4 cups. If there were, it came from the Deipnon, not from a Passover tradition. That's what I got to say. Rob?
Yeah. The question is the traditional rabbinic Seder text to be interpreted?
Right.
Or is the traditional rabbinic Seder a brand, the rabbinic brand of what makes a, quote, true Pesach Seder in the rabbinic halakhic sense, and was part of the shaping and building of that meal done and developed with knowledge of the gospel.
Right.
And at least in part a shoring up of the boundaries of the community in response to the gospel. I think we have so many other examples that, to me, the second example is more explanatory. And so what I hear you saying, Caleb, is that then, if that's true, if we accept that as a premise, that the rabbis took Deipnon tradition, Jewish Deipnon traditions around Pesach, and kind of made their own brand, and then started enforcing this is the only way to truly keep Pesach. As their power and authority expanded over the centuries, that became crystallized tradition. But if we then look at that, project it anachronistically into the first century, and then try to map it on Luke's account or whatever, where they're not going to map well. And so what I think Caleb is doing, what Dr. Petrie has done, is so let's just loosen our insistence on the rabbinic version of the Seder and go back to the scripture as text, not the rabbinic Seder as the text I need to interpret, like what part is the Messiah, what about the Afikomen and all this stuff, but rather go and say, what can I learn from the text itself, and start there. I think that's a better method.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Tell us your thoughts on this subject by leaving a comment in the comment section. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and enable those notifications. And we'll see you in the next video.